how can someone manage their business deductions, finances the easiest way for them to be able to track all of those things?
You have to have the discipline to sit down on a monthly cadence, weekly cadence, whatever your business, every business is different, every structure is different, right?
Mhm.
So for Carly has to sit down weekly or bi-weekly every time she gets paid.
Welcome to the Side Hustler Podcast, your go-to space for content creation, actionable strategy, and the real behind the scenes of building a business while you're still balancing a full-time job. Every week we talk about what actually works, what doesn't, and how to create content that moves your business forward without burning you out. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc. Let's get started. Hello, Abby, and welcome to the Side Hustler Podcast again.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes, so as many of you know, Abby is one of my good business besties. We have been knowing each other for some time. However, we are in this business entrepreneur space together. We are side hustlers together. We do life together. And so I'm super excited to have you back on the podcast, not only talking about finances, but now talking about taxes. And so for all of the people who may not be familiar with what you do, who you are, why don't you give them a little insight about what you do?
Yes. So my name is Abby Sarage. I am the owner, founder of Taylor Financial Solutions. So Taylor Financial Solutions is, I am the financial coach for it. So I help individuals, couples, business owners on the strategic of their finances, rather that's debt, strategizing on how to save better and just how to live life better, but not in a way of like you're putting yourself in this box, right? So that is what I do on a typical basis when it comes to Taylor Financial Solutions, also known as TFS. If we talk about it later on, we'll just say TFS. But TFS is definitely a good outlet for a lot of different people. So what I have also recently have done in the top of this year, 2026, I have partnered with my CPA, my tax professional, my tax strategist, all these different things that she has named for her. I partner with her to start doing taxes. And the reason why I started doing that is because I started to see as I'm in this world of people, business owners, and individuals, how taxes is a thing, how I see people get sad, I see people get overwhelmed. Around this time, it just starts getting real stressful for them, right? So I've been with her for over the course of like 5+ years now. And so just speaking with her, I was like, hey, let's go ahead and partner. We made that decision. And I am glad I did because I have trusted her for so many years and she has helped me along the way to even be where I am right now. So that company is Great Taxes and Company. And so they have over 20+ years of experience when it comes to taxes. So I'm just happy to be alongside with them. So I'm able to be on here to share with everyone else who need help with their taxes.
Yes. And it's so funny because I feel like, as we have connected in chat so many times, we'll talk about like deductions and different things that we're thinking about throughout the
Right.
years. And so it's so funny that, you're now in this space as a business owner and helping people that not only have W-2s, but who have side hustles, who have, actual legit businesses, really make sure that they're getting their financials in order. I know that, from knowing you for so long, like finances is such a key critical thing that you focus on, not only helping people to save and get out of debt, but also to make sure that people are maximizing their business to their best advantage, because business is a tool that you could be using for wealth and for retirement.
Yeah.
And so part of being able to have wealth and being able to retire is being able to understand the tax code as a business owner and as a W-2 employee. So with that, I want to ask you, what is one of the biggest tax mistakes that you see business owners making? Okay, quick pause. If creating consistent content feels like a full time job on top of your full time job, then you're going to want to hear this. I am excited to bring to you Batch, which is a new marketplace platform that I and my co founder, Lauren, have created, built for entrepreneurs and content creators. This is the marketplace that is going to connect business owners and entrepreneurs who need content with vetted local creators who can help them plan, shoot, and edit their content all in one place. So many of you have asked, when am I going to be able to book you for a content day? When can you come to my city? Do you know anyone in my city that does what you do? And this is going to be the solution. So, whether you're an entrepreneur who is tired of struggling to find reliable content creators, photographers, or maybe you're just a creator who's ready to get booked and paid without having to go through the social media marketing of your business, Batch is going to be the platform that bridges that gap. So, say for instance, if you're flying to New York for a speaking engagement and you need content there, or even if you have a vendor pop up event in New Orleans and you need content there, Batch is going to be the creator marketplace that helps you get high quality content to market your brand online. It's designed to help you finally show up online with strategy, with confidence, and create consistent content that converts and actually helps you reach your visibility and revenue goals without the overwhelm. So, if you're ready to make content creation easier and more intentional, head over to batchcontent.com. That's BATCHED content.com. Join the waitlist so you are the first to know when Batch is launched in your city.
So that is a very good question. And the reason why I say that is because, like you're just saying, I've been in this finance thing for a while, seeing different things, and I continue to learn more, right? Even for myself, even right now. So when it comes to people missing deductions, when it comes to you filing your business, there's a lot of different things like your home office. You may not have a door, you may not have somewhere you actually work, but wherever you work, sorry, you do have somewhere, but wherever you work, you're able to mark off a max amount of square footage in your home towards taxes. You don't have to have a physical office to put towards that. Another thing is, one big thing is people who travel for their business, tracking those mileage and putting those mileages in. If you're a realtor, if you do anything that you're driving to, going to a webinar, going to a pop-up event, whatever that looks like, you want to make sure you're tracking those mileage because that's also important. And one big thing that I think people also miss is that professional education that you're getting. So whatever industry you're in, like I was just saying, like going to those webinars, attending something online, you paying for those, you're educating yourself within your business. You could mark those as well towards education when it comes to your business as well. And then another thing as well is your phone and your internet. How are we on here right now? We need the Wi-Fi, right? And so those are different things that you want to make sure that you're not marking the entire thing. That phone is a personal phone too. You cannot put the entire bill towards it, but there's a good percentage that you can put towards it to mark towards your Wi-Fi and your phone. So those are some big ones that I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And that's so good because I know that, when I was coming to you and I was telling you a little bit about, what I was doing and all of the things that we have going on, you kind of went through this list of all of these things. Like, did you get this? Did you add this? Did you make sure you have this? And so it's always good to know that there are hidden deductions that we don't always think about. We always think about the things that we see on like our bank statements and, our P&Ls, but there's also deductions like you mentioned that aren't often always on our statements, but do classify as an deduction that we can put towards our tax liability. And so, with that being said, I know that, or when I first started my job back in whenever I started working, I think that was like about what,
Don't
15
age
years
yourself,
ago,
girl.
15 years ago when I got my first job. And, I hired the person that did my mom's taxes to help me with my taxes. And then now that I am a W-2 employee, but I also have a business, it's completely different
Mm-hmm.
now when you just have a W-2. You
Right.
have to think about strategy, you have to plan, you have to have someone that actually knows what your situation is so that they can help you maximize your deductions and what you're claiming to the IRS in the best ways possible. And so, for someone that is probably new to the space, maybe they're a new entrepreneur, new side hustler, how would you say, or what would you explain the difference between tax strategy and someone that's just filing their taxes?
Yeah. And it's good to point that out because I don't think a lot of people pay attention to it. A lot of us, we just see, oh, it's the top of the year, February to April, we have to file our taxes. That's it. And so it's important to know, like you're saying, tax strategy versus tax filing. When you're going to someone, think about it. When you go to that person, are you only going to them around that time, giving them all their papers, deuces, you never hear from them again? that's the case, and that's a tax filing person. They're just filing your taxes. Whatever you give them, they're going to go ahead and do that. They may find a little tweaks here and there, but that's it, right? A tax strategist, they're going to, when you bring them your paper, they're looking at it, they're like, okay, this looks good, or why did you not do this, or why did you do this? And let's go ahead, starting now, let's go ahead and start doing X, Y, and Z. And even with that, like I was just saying, me partnering with Great Tax and Company, my CPA, she's so great because I don't just talk to her around this time. I talk
Mhm.
to her in July. I talk to her in December. I'm calling her, texting her, whatever. I come up with an idea about my business or something. I'm making sure, hey, is this a good tax strategy to do before I open up this credit card or take out a loan, whatever that looks like. I'm getting information on her behalf because she has that education as well. So that is the big key difference when it comes to someone just filing your taxes, a tax filer versus a tax strategist. And having a tax strategist as a business owner is so, so important because
Mhm.
just like you're new to the business world, you're new to the tax world. It's a whole nother game. And I know we're going to get more into it. So I'll just leave it right there for that.
Yeah, no, that's really good because I mean, this is, I've been in business for almost about 3 years. And honestly, like, I had never heard of a tax strategist. Like, I've always heard of just, you go to your CPA, you go to your tax lady at the beginning of the year, you drop off your W-2 and any other documents that you have. And then she tells you how much you pay in taxes and what her fee is, or if you get a refund. And then that's just that. But then, as I got introduced into the business world, I had to understand what quarterly taxes were. I had to
Mm-hmm.
understand different deductions. I had to understand how to actually categorize my expenses, how to actually structure my business. And so when you have a tax strategist, not only are they looking at your numbers, but they're also thinking about you. Like, they have to be forward facing, like they're thinking 4 steps ahead of you. So as far as like whatever your financial goal is, whether that's to purchase a home or for you to not owe in taxes or for you to start, investing in your retirement, they're thinking about your taxes in perspective to your goals. Whereas a regular tax professional, they're just trying to make sure that you have your taxes filed so that you're not getting in trouble with the IRS. And so
Right.
I think that that goes back to what you're saying, being able to have someone that's forward thinking, that you are always in communication with. If you have any questions or anything that's different in your business throughout the 12 months of the year, you have someone that you're able to get that feedback from to make sure that you're in compliance, but then also to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a hole with owing taxes at the beginning of the year. So with that, I kind of want to get into kind of breaking down the difference between W-2 and business, and how, with taxes, there are completely different scopes. W-2 employees, we have a salary that we get paid, we pay taxes through our employer, and then we bring home our net income. But with business, everything that you make is not necessarily what you actually report that you make, because you have expenses, where it's like W-2s, you can't write off expenses. And so if someone has a W-2 and a business, what should they be thinking, or how should they be thinking differently as it pertains to taxes and tax strategy? Have you ever found yourself stuck on what to post or struggling to stay consistent on social media? I've been there, and that's exactly why I created this free guide called 30 Days of Done For You Social Media Prompts for Personal Brands. This guide is loaded with prompts to get your gears turning so you can have a gallery of content to create for your brand and never stress about what to post again. And you can grab it right now at cdcreativecoagency.com/content and start creating content that connects without the stress.
So when it comes to having like that W-2 in your business, you have to think you now have two different incomes, right? You have your W-2, like you're just saying, and you have your business. Those two things, like you're just saying as well, I just want to reiterate, is that they're taking in your W-2, they're already taking out your taxes for it. You do not have to do that. On the business side, you're getting the money. It's your responsibility to take out those taxes. So that is one of like the big things when it comes to the two things. And then also the W-2 in the business, but also on the business side is those deductions. Like you said, when you have just the W-2, you can't write off your office, even if you work from home remotely. Like that's like that's what you're supposed to do for your W-2 job, right? But on the business side, you could write off those things. You could write off where you travel to, those mileages, all those different things. And so you want to make sure that when you are doing that, that you're just keeping up with everything on the business side, because
Mhm.
your company, the W-2, they're already doing all that because they have, if you think about it, that W-2 is the business, right? So they're doing what they have to do on their end as well when it comes to taxes. So they're doing their part. So now on the business side, you have to do your part, putting taxes to the side between 15 to 35%, find whatever fits best for you, putting it in a separate account if you're not paying quarterly, and making sure you're not touching it, but make sure you're planning ahead and not just waiting to the end of the year, because then that would be like a big surprise. So that's what makes it a difference when it comes to like the W-2 and the business side.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was probably one of the things that I had to learn the hard way. Because when I first started in business, you get excited because you have clients that are paying year and year, like, oh, I want to get this and I want to buy that and I want to do this. But you still have to account for the taxes that you have to pay based off of the money that you make. No matter if it comes by way of a check or Zelle or Cash App, because
Yes.
all of that stuff has to be reported. And so many people think that, if they go through Cash App or Zelle, that the IRS is not going to find out about it. The IRS is going to find out about it.
How
And
did you
believe
think?
me, if
Yeah.
they do find out about it, even if it's years to come later, they are going to collect their taxes on that money. And so it might as well benefit you ahead of time to set money aside. And I know that when we met at the top of the year, going
Mhm.
through my business strategy and structure, we came up with a game plan for my business finances and my business budget, so that every time, no matter who pays or how much money comes in, I'm putting money aside to accommodate those taxes that I'm going to have to pay at the top of the year. So that way, if I do get a huge tax bill, I've already had money set aside and I'm not scrambling last minute to try to figure out how to pay my taxes. And so with that, and I kind of also want to talk a little bit, because this is kind of interesting. And I know that there's, like, majority of the people that listen to this podcast are side hustlers. They have W-2s and they have businesses. And a lot of them are also married. A lot of them also have kids. And one of the things that you brought to my attention when I was bringing all of my tax deductions and all of my, documents to you, was that what I was withholding from my job was incorrect. Now, mind you, this is something that people don't tell you in school. While we're learning about the Pythagorean
Yeah.
theorem, no one is telling us, that this is how we should structure our tax withholdings when we're married, when we have kids, when we have a business. And so, with that being said, how should someone adjust their withholdings if they have a business and a W 2?
Yeah. And just to backtrack a little bit, like this withholding, which is a W-4, it's like one of my favorite things when it comes to the tax side, right? On the financial side, it's about debt. Like, I'm always eager to talk about somebody how to get them out of debt. But now with this withholding, it's very intriguing because, like you said, so many people do not know. They
Mm-hmm.
do not know. And so what it is, and I just want to explain it to everyone, when you get your job, your W-2 9 to 5 job, they're going to give you a lot of different paperwork. You probably don't remember, especially if you've been at your company for a while, but it's called a W-4. So before you get your W-2 of how much taxes and everything, how much you made for the year, you fill out this W-4, and it's called W-4 withholding. What it is, it has several questions on there, and it's basically asking you questions that you think you're answering of your personal lifestyle, right? Which technically, yes. But what that comes down to is when you're checking off certain things on that box, it's taking out either a lot or a little, depending on how you answer it. So it all depends on your lifestyle of what you're entering on this W-4 withholding form. Because let's go ahead and paint a scenario. Now, if you are part of the scenario, don't feel as if you have to do this, because it all depends specifically on your entire lifestyle. This is just a scenario. So let's say you're married, and you have one dependent, right? A good way to probably look at it is, okay, I could go ahead and say I'm filing married, but I am not, and this is all legal. I do not legally have to put I have a dependent. Why? Because when you put that you have a dependent, they're going to take out less, because obviously they're trying to be, they want to give you more of your money because you need to help take care of your dependent, right? So depending on how you do that, and then also on even the single side, if you're single but you do have a kid, you don't have to put that you have the pen. You could just keep it as single, and that's when they're going to take, your job is going to withdraw more of your taxes. We know, like, if you were to ever look at your entire payroll of your paycheck, actually, of everything it has deducted from Medicare to Medicaid, all taxes, you're just like, it took everything out, right? Yes, because depending on how you have that withholding depends. But the reason why that's important, I don't want you to think short term, you need to think that long term, right? So let's go ahead and say you're doing the max of everything. Like, give me as much money as you can on my check because I need it today. Well, guess what? The time now has come. That tax season has come. Now you owe way more. Why? Because you weren't giving the IRS as much money. And so, in order to prevent that, you could go ahead and change that. And with that as well, when you're putting in that withholding, they'll also ask you, do you want to add extra amount of money? So you could say, yeah, let me go ahead and do $100 extra, take out an extra 100, take out an extra 250. But it all depends on your lifestyle, what your game plan is for the entire year, and all those different things. So if you do have a W-2 job, if you have a W-2 job, basically, go ahead and reach out to your HR and just double check, what is it looking like, what did you fill out when you first got this job, and then just look at how much is actually being withheld. Also too, if you actually go to the irs.gov, somewhere on there they do have a calculator per se that will help you to really figure out for your actual situation what would be the best idea when it comes to how you should fill out your W-4 withholding form. So
That's really good. And I mean, going back to what I was saying, no one tells you this because I mean, it's all a game essentially.
yes,
But
yes.
like for people like me who've been at my job, for several years, when I first, filled out my W-4, 5 years ago, I was not married and I did not have a child. And so it changed. And then when I did get married, I was very eager to let the government know that I was married and we were
Right.
all in together. And with that, even with us not having dependents, like we weren't getting as many taxes taken out. But then as my husband started his business, I started my business, we have a more income, we have a little bit more income to actually offset what will be missing to help us, decrease our tax bill at the top of the year. And so, I just thought that that was so critical because, again, no one is telling you that this is what you're supposed to do to actually help you out with your taxes. So it just depends on if you would rather have more of your money now or
Right.
more of your money later. And so depending on where your business is, obviously, you can decide which is best for your situation, but
And I
also having a tax strategist to kind of look at your finances in full scope to help you understand would be a critical step for you to take as well.
For sure. And I also wanted to just clear, when you are actually going to file your taxes, especially we're all on here business owners, you want to go to a tax strategist, not just a tax preparation that's going to fill out the paper. They're not going to then file your stuff as if you were whatever you put on your W-4. That
Hmm.
those are two separate things. And like I said, it is legal to do that. I personally think I have my W-2, I have my full-time job still, right? I still think on there, I'm still single. I have never went in there and changed it. When I first
Hmm.
started that job, I was not married and I didn't go back in there and let them know. So, but that doesn't stop me now when I'm filing my taxes. I am filing married jointly, right? So just to let you guys know, it is separate and it's legal to do so.
Hmm. That's good. That's good.
Mhm.
And so I know that there's another issue or mistake that people make when it comes to their taxes, and that has to do with how their business is structured. And I know when at the time of recording, Abby just had a webinar last night and it was so insightful. And one of the things that was brought up was Miss Jessica was talking about how, when people automatically have a business idea, they think, oh, I'm just going to go get an LLC, and they haven't proven that, that's a business that they want to actually do, or they haven't been consistent with making money in their business. And so you have to also think about that when you are setting up your entity structure. And when I say entity structure, I'm talking about, LLC, S corp, partnership, C corp, things of that sort. And a lot of people would think, okay, I'm starting a business, I have to automatically get an LLC. But she was letting us know, like, you could operate your business as a sole proprietorship, whereas you're not having to pay those taxes that you would if you have an LLC or an S corp. And so I wanted to ask you, when would you say it makes sense for you to kind of like take a look at your entity structure and make adjustments based off of your income? Y'all already know I'm all about working smarter and not harder, especially when it comes to marketing your brand. And if you're still relying only on social media to reach your audience, we need to fix that immediately. Social media is cute, but let's be real, the algorithm is unpredictable, and your content is probably only reaching a small percentage of your followers. That's why I swear by email marketing, because when I send an email, I know 100% of my subscribers are getting my messages. And the best part, Flowdesk makes it ridiculously easy. You can send beautiful on-brand emails, automate your sequences, and even create landing pages without needing to be tech savvy. And because you're listening, I got you a deal. Use my code SIDEHUSTLE at checkout and you'll get 50% off your Flowdesk subscription for the next 12 months. So if you're ready to stop relying on algorithms and start building an email list that actually converts, try Flowdesk for free. And don't forget to use the code SIDEHUSTLE at checkout for that exclusive 50% off.
I'm personally going to say get with a tax strategist for one, because it's important, right? I could give you a list of things like, okay, when you do this, when you do that, when you do this, go ahead and change to an LLC or to an S corp. I mean, or a C corp per se. But it all just depends. And so you want to make sure that you are talking to someone who has that information, who's able to guide you along the way and not just say, oh, yeah, just go ahead and do it. But it is very important to have that sole proprietor at the beginning, especially, you're just trying this idea out. You don't really know if it's going to stick. You don't really know. You're not trying to be, a Debbie Downer on yourself, but you want to be strategic, right? We're saying we're going to try to plan better for the year when it comes to the tax season. So getting that LLC right away, and like, oh, I may not even break even, already know in the next like 5 years. And by the time the third year come around, the IRS is looking at you as a hobby anyways. So just go ahead and take the baby steps. Don't worry about what the next person is doing. So once you start seeing, let's just say you start off at that sole proprietor, and then you're like, okay, I'm starting to get clientele monthly. It's starting to look good. I'm getting my flow. Okay, I think it's now probably time to go ahead and get my LLC. Let me go ahead and do that. Do it the right way. Things like that. And so on top of that, when it comes to the LLC, it's like, okay, now I'm making X, Y, and Z amount of money a year. Let me go ahead and reach back out to my tax strategist, because now there's different ways with that LLC. We can now start saving quarterly for taxes and just planning differently as well. And then also too, if you're hiring people, that's another thing you want to look at of how your entity is for your business as well. So there's not a one size fit all when it comes to how to do it, but I do strongly suggest, just like Jessica did say on the webinar last night, start at that sole proprietor if you're still trying to figure it out. But if you're already at that LLC level and you didn't start the sole proprietor, it's perfectly fine. It's time to get with a tax strategist for sure. See how you could make this year of 2026 for next year filing much better than it was this year.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different things that you mentioned last night as well about how you can make, your tax filing season easier. Like a couple being, making sure that you're keeping up with your books, making sure you're not commingling your funds, making sure that you're actually tracking your mileage. And one of the things that Miss Jessica, she was saying was like, one of the easiest ways to get audited is how some people will go into, these computer systems, and they will say, oh, I made 40,000 and then I put 40,000 into my business to try to get a refund. And then she was saying, that's the quickest way to get audited, because the first thing they're going to ask you is how you ate and how you lived if you put all your money into your business. And so with that being said, I wanted you to kind of break down, like, for someone that is struggling with their bookkeeping, like, what are some of the ways? Because we go back and forth on this. Like, I'm a QuickBooks girly. Abby loves Excel spreadsheets. So as far as like making it easier for them to keep up with these things, how can someone manage their business deductions, finances the easiest way for them to be able to track all of those things?
First thing is, and just thinking about back to some of my clients right now who are business owners, I tell them all the time, it's discipline. You have to have the discipline to sit down on a monthly cadence, weekly cadence, whatever your business, every business is different. Every structure is different, right? So for Carly has to sit down weekly or bi-weekly every time she gets paid. For me, I'm able to sit down once a month and do my thing, right? So we do go back and forth about QuickBooks and Excel, but I will say QuickBooks is a very good asset. It is very helpful. It's easy. And I feel like if you're a business owner that's on the go, 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 and you're able to have that into your expense, I say go for it. Me, I'm more of like, I could do it myself type thing. I'm going to make this spreadsheet. It's great. I'm going to go ahead and run with it, right? I don't really travel a lot for mine. Carly, you travel, right? So having QuickBooks is helpful because it helps you track your mileage. If I was traveling a lot, it would be tedious for me to come back every single time, mark down things on my spreadsheet. So, but having whatever system works for you is very important. Do not go off the rim. Do not just be sitting here putting something in your notes. You need something like legit to where it's look. There's also another thing if QuickBooks may be out your budget. I think there's something called, I mean, there is something called Waves. I'm not sure of the price difference, but Waves is also another entity as well that will help you will get your P&L also at the end of the year as well. So just having those different things is important, but having that discipline is very important. I tell my clients all the time, hey, when you get paid, you have to sit down and plug in your numbers of what you made, where that money is going, how you need to now move that money into those accounts that we have set aside for you to put that money in. Having that discipline is just very, very important when it comes to tracking your expenses. You have to track them. And one thing also, Carly and I, we're both in clinical research, right? So we have this thing where we literally say in research, if you did not document it, it did not happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I say the same thing when it comes to your business. Like if you did not document that you did these things and now you want to pull it out of your magic hat at the top of the year, like, oh, I owe 5,000. Let me find something. I did this. No, that's not going to work. If you don't have
Mm-hmm.
the receipts, if you don't have this, do not think, like you said, 10 years down the line, they could come back around and get you. So, and by that time, none of us want to be going to jail, right? We all want to be chilling at home, probably, hopefully retire, whatever that looks like, right? So that is definitely some important things to keep in mind when it comes to being strategic on tracking your expenses.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good that you said that. And I mean, even us sitting down, like even Abby, she gave me a spreadsheet for me to fill out every time I sit down and do my quote unquote payroll. Mind you, I'm
Right.
the only employee in my company, but I have
But
a
you have a lot of hats.
yeah, I have a "Where is your money going?" spreadsheet, and every
Yes.
Friday I have to sit down and I have to put out how much money came into my business this week, and then it auto calculates. Okay, this is how much is going into operating expenses. This is how much is going to taxes. This is how much is going towards debt. This is how much is going towards emergency, and then it just kind of gives me, it makes me feel like I am, that girl because
Yeah.
imagine like sitting down and you're just like, well, I guess like today I feel like paying myself $100. And then you're like, well, what did that $100 do? Where did that $100 go? What did I spend it on? And next thing you've done that over the course of 52 weeks. Now you got $5,200 that's uncounted for, sis. And if you
Mm-hmm.
think that you're going to get away with having $5,200 uncounted for with the IRS, since you have another thing coming for you. So
Yes.
I definitely would say, I mean, even though it did, and I was able to identify, like, the best thing is that, she's my friend and I'm like, hey, my finances feel all kinds of, crazy and wazoo. And so we had a strategy session where we literally sat down and she made me comb through my expenses and put it all in Excel spreadsheet. But it really
I
was
did it for you. I did it for you. I
that's
didn't
a
let
bit,
you do it on your
yeah,
own.
okay, yeah, whatever. But I say all this to say, like, even now it's February. We did this in December, and it's become a
Mm-hmm.
practice that like I routinely know, like, okay, every Friday I have to do this. Like, this is important, and it makes me feel even more confident as a business owner to not only understand my numbers, but to also feel like financially organized to know, like, hey, if the IRS says this, you owe whatever, whatever, like I know where that money is, I know where that money's going, and I know, like, I already have it accounted for. But imagine if you're commingling your funds, you're swiping your card when you go out with your friends, you're doing all of these things, like it can get chaotic. And so I do challenge you, like, if you do struggle with being disciplined, especially when it becomes, as side hustlers, we sometimes look at our business money as our fun money, but just because
Right.
it's okay for it to be your fun money, but you still have to, have your books in order when it comes to your fun money. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you, struggle with that, I highly, highly, highly suggest you getting with Abby to sit down with her and have her just kind of like go through your business, finances to actually come up with a game plan so you actually are prepared when it comes to tax season and then also even throughout the year. And so with that being said, I know one of the things that you always teach about is wealth and retirement
Mhm.
and investing and all of the things. And some people, who are building businesses and things, yes, we look at it as like a fun revenue or things of that sort. But I kind of want to talk about, how we could be using the tax code to build wealth. One of the things that you helped me understand was, the difference between a 401k and a Roth IRA. And then, how you are able to invest a certain amount of money per year, but then also how, that money, it also is a part of a deduction because,
Mhm.
you're not actually spending it. And so how can someone use the tax code to build wealth instead of just surviving in the tax season?
Yeah, yeah, it's really important to know that the money you're making that's not going to give you that wealth perspective. That's not It's not going to give you wealth at all. You're going to still be feeling like you're living day by day. You have to
Mhm,
have plans, and when you have those plans, investing is one of those big things. Not investing personally, but also in your business,
mhm,
especially if you are a full-time entrepreneur. Having an investment within your business is very important. And so, like you're saying, for W-2s, you have that 401k with your job. So if you have a 401k with your job, you can utilize that as a tax deduction per se, to help with your taxes, right? The Roth IRA, not so much because you already put money in there for taxes, but there is another thing for entrepreneurs. And you don't have to be a full entrepreneur either, but if you're making good money in your business, a SEP IRA is also good to have on the business side. Very similar to like a Roth IRA, but it's for an actual business. So just like we're saying, you have that 401k with your W-2 job, but if you have your business, a SEP IRA is that. And so when it comes to all of that, looking into that and really understanding how that works is very important because those things help you and those things
mhm,
are accumulating over time. You saving $10 or whatever, let's just say $100 every time you get paid, putting that just in a simple checking account, savings account, even in a business account, there's no high yield savings account typically. So if you just keep it in a business account, I promise you, if you was to put that in a SEP IRA, you will be making way more over the courses of the year and your wealth will be building with your business. Don't just think
mhm,
having the business is going to create wealth. You have to have these other strategies of when you get that money, where is it actually going to go and how can it work for you without you already did the work at the beginning. So
mhm,
where can you now put this money to now work for you while you're sleeping, right?
mhm,
And so those are important things to think of. So a lot of people love to throw around the word passive income. I want a passive income business. In reality, there's not really a lot of passive income business. You have to put in the work. You have to do these things. But a good way, if you want to think about something passive, is putting those things into those investments because you don't look at it, you don't think about it, you put in the right things that are good. You speak to someone who has that way to speak to you, come to me as well. But trying to figure out what that looks like and making sure like you can go ahead and put that to the side, look at it every 6 months or so, and you'll just start seeing it grow. But
mhm,
also, since we're talking about taxes, like I said, at the end of the year, you'll get that form. You go ahead and give it to your tax strategist because we're no longer going to tax filers. We're no longer talking about that, right? You're going to go to your tax strategist and provide them with that information, and they'll be able to use that too to help with those deductions when it comes to your
mhm.
business.
Okay, let me put y'all onto something because if you're creating content and you're not using ManyChat, you are leaving money on the table. And that's on period. I use ManyChat for all of my DM automations, and I'm constantly telling my clients this. DM automations are one of the best ways for you to convert your content. Why? Because you're getting direct links straight to your audience without them having to wait for you to manually respond to DMs. You can send links to your lead magnets, event tickets, your offers, checkout pages, literally anything that you're selling automatically. It's fast, it's seamless, and it removes friction for your audience. But what I love most is not how just convenient it is, but how strategic it is. Because you can also track your conversions and see where your leads are coming from and understand what content is driving real results. Not just likes, not just views, actual data. And if you want to try it out, I got a code for you. Use my code to get 30% off of ManyChat for your first 3 months. You can scan the QR code on your screen, or if you're listening, head over to cdcreativecoagency.com/ManyChat to grab your discount now. Trust me, once you automate your DMs, you will never look back.
Yeah.
That's really good. That is really, really good. Really, really
Yeah.
good. And I think that even for, there are some people that are listening that, are in this place. Maybe you decided that, you want to start a business, but you don't necessarily know where to start. Um but I will say this, the tax code is not really built for W-2 employees. You get a lot of the wealth benefits or tax benefits when you own a business. And even if you're a high achieving, on a W-2 employee, at some point you're going to have to either pay more on the taxes in the front end or in the back end as you continue to climb the corporate ladder, as you continue to move from job to job, and you're getting increasing your salary that way. The best way for you to really maximize the tax code is by having a business. And so for someone that is listening right now who is trying to decrease their tax liability either this year or next year, what is one thing that you would say that they can implement this month to actually lower their tax liability for next year?
Being consistent and
Hmm.
tracking those expenses. And then um also to just being intentional, like I was saying, like consistency and discipline, having that
Hmm.
discipline. You're planning to start this business or you already have the business. What were you doing last year to the point where why you're here today? Right, 9 times out of 10 is probably the tracking. I know a lot of people do not do tracking. A lot of my clients don't. We had to get that spreadsheet going. Now they're utilizing it. Now they're figuring out where their money is going. Now they're able to make changes along the way because they're seeing how much they're making versus not, right? So having that savings account just for taxes, just open up a savings account, put it in there saying, okay, we're going to do whatever, 15%, 30, 25% to these taxes. When that tax year come around, I am not on here to tell you guys, hey, you're going to get a refund if you do these things.
Hmm.
I'm here to tell you that we want to be prepared because at the end of the day, we all have to pay taxes some way, somehow. And how we're planning on how to do that is what's important.
Hmm.
So having money put to the side as well for taxes is very important. So if you do not by this month of March, when this is aired, go ahead, reach out to your bank, whatever bank you have, and open up a savings account just for taxes and make sure you're funneling money there every time you get that service and
Hmm.
things like that. Like find a system. And once again, you have to be disciplined and consistent because you have to sit down and do it because if you don't do it, no one else is going to do it and you're going to be back in the same spot.
Hmm. That's good. That's good. Well, thank you so much, my friend, for hopping on the podcast
Yes,
again. Now, I know
of
that there's so many
course.
people that are listening. They're probably like, oh my gosh, I love Coach Abby. She knows everything about finances and I want to work with her. Where can they connect with you and how can they work with you?
Yes, and actually, I wanted to take a step back on the question. Sorry that you had asked as well what to do again for this month. Also, if your business is not separated from your personal, because I don't feel like I touched on
Hmm.
it, please separate it.
Hmm.
Separate it, separate it, separate it. There is a lot of it's called mix and mingling, as we know, mingling your funds. You don't want to mingle your funds at all. It causes a lot of confusion. And so, obviously, like Carla was saying at the beginning too, you get in money, Zelle, Cash App. You don't think the IRS is seeing it; they are seeing it. Like that's how Zelle and all these other things were made. Like they're not able to just make them and not being able to have to possibly report it, right? So make sure you are separating your funds as well. So if you do not have separated business and personal, be sure to do that. And it does not have to be actual business um, bank
Hmm.
like a bank account. It could be just another account, but make sure it's just separate. So there are a few banks that don't make you pay like monthly fees because I know that's a
Hmm.
big thing when it comes to business accounts. So
Hmm.
like Navy Federal is one, American Express is another one. Those are my top two I personally would suggest. But you could go ahead, look around, do your due diligence, and just do your research. But those are the top two I know I've used and have my clients use. So those were the two I would refer to. But if you guys would love to sit down with me where we could sit down just like Carly was saying, she got that spreadsheet not to take over from her QuickBooks. She still uses her QuickBooks every single time, but it's to really see, like she said, where your money's going. That's literally what it says. Where is your business money going? Okay, because we
Hmm.
need to know where it's going. And we'll be able to sit down and get it tailored just for you because everybody, like I said, have a different business it works differently, all these different things. Because what works for me does not work for Carly at all. And so you could find me at on Instagram at TFS Journey, or you could search me at tfsjourney.com. And you can find me there, book a free discovery call with me, and we're able to talk and really figure out what's going on with your business, because we want to start making changes for the next year. So if you already filed your taxes, completely fine. This is when now we need to start making changes, right? But if you have not filed your taxes by the time you hear this, you can also file your taxes with me. Like I said, I have partnered with Great Taxes and Company. So we are filing people taxes from just W-2s to even business owners. And like I said, you're not going to just give it to us. We're looking at it and you're going to hear from us. Hey, we need to start making these changes immediately and start turning things around. So I really hope you guys took some good information from here. And if you have any questions, feel free to even DM me on Instagram. Like I said, TFS Journey. I would love to hear from you guys.
Yes. This is amazing. This is
Yes.
amazing. And I'm super excited. As you know, I don't just trust anyone to come onto the podcast and drop knowledge and put amongst my audience, because I do hold my audience very sacred to my heart. But I know that you have helped me out tremendously when it comes to my business finances, even with my taxes, because I had gotten, my tax bill from another person. I said, I'm gonna get a second opinion. And mind you, the person that I went through originally was just a regular tax filing person. But I got so much insight and so much knowledge. And, there was a lot of things that she didn't catch that, you and your team caught. And so I am forever grateful. And, I feel like, when it comes to having a strategist, it's important for you to have someone that you can trust with your finances. I mean, finances are just so sacred. So, if you are struggling in business, if you need help organizing your business or even your personal finances or even both, I highly, highly recommend my girl, Abby. She has helped me tremendously in personal, in business, in taxes. And so if you need some help, don't struggle in silence. Make sure you get some help. I'll put all of her information down below in the description box so you can connect with her. Thank you so much again for dropping in on the podcast, dropping some tips. And
Thanks for having me on here as well. I appreciate you reaching out and having me on here, especially we're on YouTube now. So get to see faces. I love it.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Side Hustler podcast. If today's episode gave you clarity or the push you needed, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you want more behind the scenes content and strategy in real time, come hang out with me on Instagram at cd.creativeco. I'll see you in next week's episode.